Great. Send it on in. So he's very nice. I'd love to have it tested to really see what it is. I don't know. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Green Room. Today we have a really welcome guest who's been on our show before, Jody James from Florida Can.
No, when things really start heating up, when things really start getting into the legislative season, and we are, we need certain people to join us, and it's great to have Jody in, but we got to go national for a sec, because I know they had the Republican debate last night,
I didn't watch it.
No, I didn't either, but it followed a day that to me was really important, because I always go back to working in the ER in Alliance, Ohio, back in 2015, I think it was, when Donald Trump came down the escalator. And you have to understand that the culture of an ER, we have it here too, because we all watch not all of us, any of us, watch the 90 Day Fiance. The Bachelor is exciting. Tonight is the first of the Golden Bachelor.
What is that?
He's 72 years old.
Oh, wow.
So the Bachelor series is now bringing on a 72-year-old Midwesterner. He's got grandkids, 4 daughters. I heard it on the way to work this morning. So I know the details. No, and the women that they have are all colors, all shapes, all yeah, it's great.
They could, because if he's 70, they could go like 30.
So
40,
it's a different
50,
vibe. But getting back to the topic at hand, those type of water cooler shows, right, in the ER are really important.
Yeah.
And The Apprentice was a big one. And I knew Donald Trump was what he was way back when. And that was coming down the escalator in 2015. I turned to my nurses and I said, oh my God, are we in trouble? This country is really stupid. We have kids, coming in, getting work notes because they work at Burger King and they missed work and they got to get a note to go back. We knew the society we were living in. And here we are yesterday. He was found to be the fraud that he is in business. And Jody, welcome. I know you're a businesswoman. We have our business here. We follow the rules. We have to follow the rules. We don't double inflate anything. We do. We pay our taxes.
You pay your employees.
So that foundation of Trump as being, and I believe he is, a mafia copa, really risen to wherever he has on his daddy's money, lost it, and just whatever. It's clear. So here we are.
For the numbers of bankruptcies he's done, for his reputation in New York City, where like no construction worker that ever worked in New Jersey or anywhere on any of his buildings ever got paid. I mean,
so we're just stuck in this funny little quasi zone of Earth A, Earth B, whatever you want to call it, bizarre world. What do you think of Governor DeSantis's campaign so far, Jody? To that extent, he doesn't really seem to be even a blip on the screen at this point, right?
Yeah, just another one of the candidates who are going to lose to Trump. It will make this legislative session in Florida very interesting. You're already seeing kind of people abandoning ship, so to speak. He had a really tight rein on the Republican rank and file last year. And so it'll be interesting to see what kind of hold he has on the party this year. I saw something in the news recently that the Republican Party has changed some of their internal rules so that they don't have to support the party nominee. So it's interesting.
I saw that too, actually. There's shuck, there's jive. It's just interesting because I just don't know how much longer that you could sustain really the dishonesty, of Donald Trump. And I don't know, there just seems to be just a lack of a foundation of decency, to a certain extent, if you continue to follow him. I went to a really interesting event last night. I went to State Representative Spencer Roach's campaign event down in North Fort Myers. And listen, Rep. Roach, he's coming into his last term, Jody, and you know how important that is. He's got 2 more years left, and then, who knows what goes from there. But I'm happy to go down there and shake his hand and support him because he's been listen, an advocate for medical cannabis patients for access.
Yeah.
Got us our telehealth
like
through.
4 years ago, not so much.
Started out as a THC cap.
Yeah,
And I think a misunderstanding of cannabis as medicine.
Yeah, I think
And I give him credit for,
educating himself.
for sure, and wants to continue to. So I went to that event, so it was great to see him. But Jody will love this one. I saw Chancellor now, Ray Rodriguez, who of course was State Representative Ray Rodriguez, then State Senator Ray Rodriguez. But when he was State Senator Ray Rodriguez, literally led the way in the implementation bill after the people passed the constitutional amendment. Correct me when I misstep and misstate, but I actually shook his hand last night and I thanked him. And I gave him an update on the medical cannabis program. I mean, literally, he listened to me for a good 5 minutes.
Nice.
Well, I really enjoyed telling him about how and he laughed with me, from oils, orals, and rectals to even having to fight for vapes way back when, and really relating to him how the program is advanced and how we're helping people every day. And he said he was moved and touched by it, and I invited him to the clinic. Because I don't think he's ever really been in a modern medical cannabis clinic, because now that he's moved on, he's in the education zone. Leader Grant was there, and Senator Martin from that area, who's a big guy. I don't know if you know Senator Martin from Fort Myers.
One of our new guys. He's one of our new guys.
And he was very nice. So I got a chance to shake a lot of hands and shove some carbs into people's palms. I did talk to Representative Roach for a while. And Jody, let's just talk events for a second, then we'll get into the topics. First off, Florida Can behind you, really important coming into legislative season. Please give a pitch for how people can join and the importance of Florida Can, because, listen, I've supported Florida Can because I know you're a consistent and persistent, right, presence, up in Tallahassee. So let us know what's up right now and how people can get involved, because it's important.
Well, thanks to my little moniker here, flcan.org/join is certainly a great way to start. But I would love for everybody who is watching your program, we know if they're watching that they are interested in knowing more. They're interested in the talking about the issues that are important to cannabis and cannabis consumers. I think one of the things that Florida Can has been really good about doing is helping people understand the issues and helping them work out the language. So one of the things that we're doing tonight, I'm really excited about, is an in-depth discussion of Schedule 1 versus Schedule 3. So, this is happening at the federal level, and most of what Florida Cannabis Action Network does, of course, is in Florida. But we have people on our board of directors and our advisory board that work in Washington, D.C. and at the United Nations every day. And that's part of the reason why we have invited them to be part of our network. And tonight we're going to be kind of workshopping Schedule 1 versus Schedule 3, because that really is the hot topic right now. And it is going to impact everyone in the United States if the agencies decide to make those kind of changes. But Florida Can is usually very quiet. Unless you watch the Green Room or happen to be on our list, you may not see us everywhere today. There are tons of people out. We tend to do a little bit of media. So if you are in Jacksonville or in one of our hot spots, you might see us on the news. But most of the time, we are the quiet engine in the back that is getting things done. This week, we're talking about Schedule 1. Next week, we're going to be at the 11th Circuit Court in Jacksonville, where a panel of judges is going to hear our appeal in a gun suit lawsuit.
That's the gun case, right? That, listen, we were the physician for one of the, defendants, of course, and never to hit the grave, but the names are out. But listen, we're proud to support that. It is the most frequent question that we still get in the clinic. That with job protections, of course, but those two issues are what keep people from, getting their cannabis cards appropriately, for sure.
Well, one of our members is got a petition before the Supreme Court of the state of Florida over his employment rights.
Exactly,
So
right,
you,
right.
someone who wants to get something done in the marijuana movement, you will find Florida Cannabis Action Network.
So go there and join everybody. It's not expensive and it's really important.
People.
Listen, we have a big
$50.
event coming up. We have a big event coming up that I know that you're going to be at, and I'm going to be at up in Tallahassee, National Marijuana Business Association, Taylor Beal and Dr. Jeff Sharkey. And that literally, the topic of the day is the future of cannabis in the state of Florida. And I, for one, am really interested to see what's going to come down there. Listen, Jody, I had to hold it up. So I went into a local purveyor smoke shop, here in Venice, very conservative Venice, of course. And, I always go in because I like to know who's new in town and say hello, drop off a couple cards because people stop in. And it's amazing what's being sold now over the counter in Florida. And for the life of me, if you can explain to me what a 24.27% THCA, okay, hemp derived pre-roll. So it's called high THCA hemp pre-roll, 100% indoor flower, no shake or sugar leaves, which is nice. And I just don't know what it is. So if I tested it, I'm not saying testing it by smoking. If I sent it into a testing lab, what actually would it show in your humble opinion? I mean, is this real live cannabis just not having yet been lit?
Not been heated. I mean, I'm not a chemist. We can get a chemist here, but
So let's just start with October 16th at the National Marijuana Business Association panel. Seriously, do you think that this is going to be the issue this year? What's being sold now pretty much openly on the shelves of Florida, more so than what's going on in the medical cannabis world?
Already,
and people are, that are actually out there, coming in and trying to do things. And listen, I'm not saying this is in an illegitimate fashion. I'm not, versus medical legitimate fashion. It's just the way the world is right now. But do you think that the focus is going to be there? Because it's a huge loophole.
It's a huge loophole.
Huge loophole, and very concerning for consumers. That's the problem. That's where
because I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Yeah, is this what I used to get from Johnny down the street? Because the stuff I got from Johnny was always good.
Yeah.
Right. And I knew Johnny, and Johnny was using it, and Johnny liked it, and Johnny wasn't crazy. I don't know anything about what's in that package, and I'm not confident that package was tested.
No,
I have no whole QPC code on there and everything. I guess I can scan it and see what it takes me to.
Please, because I was handed one at a festival and it had a UPC code on it, and I clicked on the code and it took me to their Facebook page. And so I said to him, "This takes me to your Facebook page." He says, "Well, this stuff is still illegal. What'd you expect it to take you?"
So to me, it's going to be interesting, and why I really want to be up in Tallahassee. And listen, I thank my part-time guys and my staff for allowing me to go to Tallahassee. Listen, it's interesting. You know what's real fun, Jody? When I start visits now for telehealth with my patients, many of them will say, "Well, wow, what a great victory for the patients. And we know you were up there."
Oh,
we have a report. Good. Don's got a report. We knew you were up there doing your thing. So it's fun to see fruits of labors and small victories, right? But it's really going to be interesting to see because, listen, we had our legislative meeting with Florida Can last night, talking about veterans cards, right, as one of the legislative missions, reciprocity, for out-of-staters, so nobody has to be, right. I mean, those issues are so important and relevant. But I'm not so sure that where the focus is going to be. Yeah. Okay. So Ruta's got the report in front of her.
So, but Ruta, one of the folks from Kaicha Labs ended up testifying in a case not in Florida because someone had taken the Kaicha Lab form and faked it.
Yeah, for sure. So cut and paste and everything. It's too easy in this day and age.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's because it says it's from a lab doesn't mean the lab even seen it. And literally Kaicha got called in to testify and they had to be like, "This isn't us."
Yeah, here the laboratory managers checked off on it on 12/15/2022 for the pre-roll. All it shows that it has is CBG
Huh.
at 6.12%.
Okay.
And then the only other thing that it shows active is THCA at 23%.
Right.
Total active THC 23.1.
Right.
Total CBD 0.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't know.
it's like it's really
I
it's
don't know, like I said, I just don't know what it is.
22.
yeah 12,
12 of
14,
22.
20 yeah 22.
It's all hemp, Dr. B. Don't worry about it.
I got it. I know. It's just crazy. You know, what a world. Jody, and it's
Graded.
it's such a changed world from when even we opened up the clinic, 7 years ago. And I tell people that, and I tell people that medically as well. I want to make a big announcement, importantly, and I'm so gratified by it. Dr. Joe Goldstrich wrote a book, Cannabis and Cancer, that is being published. And I'm the back cover commenter because I was a proofreader for it. Listen, it's such an honor to be so. But we were talking the other day about it because the great thing about his book is that it's going to be connected to a group where you'll continue to receive the updated research on cancer as you go along. So by purchasing the book, you're literally joining a community of cannabis and cancer patients. Listen, do you know Joe at all? Have you ever met him? He's 87 years old. He's been a medical cannabis clinician forever with Bonnie Goldstein and that generation. Really,
California guy.
I think he's a mentor to Bonnie. Let's put it that way, but he's 87 years old. And I said to Joe, listen, in connection with that group, that cancer, community, and cannabis, I would love to moderate a forum, every quarter or so, free of charge. It's an easy YouTube to set up. Once again, of people that have bought the book in the community so that people can literally hear a couple presentations in the cannabis community and kind of have that type of support group. So, there's a lot going on and it's exciting. So I just wanted to make that announcement. Joe told me the book's being published in a couple of weeks. Listen, we have a couple authors coming on too that have also written books. I'll tell you who's got a run was Peter Grinspoon has gotten great run for the book that he wrote, even up to the White House level and all that, Let's talk a little federal too, Jody. So I know because Safer Banking got out of committee this week, right?
But I want to talk about how exciting cancer is, and I want to talk about how exciting Grinspoon is. It's okay. Yeah, safe banking. Now, if the House can simply, get outside of itself long enough to pass something, that would be fabulous. Which, kind of is part of the reason I think that there are segments of the marijuana movement that are like, yes, Schedule 3, yes, Schedule 3, bring it back up to Schedule 3, because really, you can bank a Schedule 3 drug.
Right, and it leads into this evening's conversation, which really I'm thrilled to be asked to be a part of, and it's just for Florida Can members. This one's not open to the general public, although I know you'll post it later. But listen, the opposition, it's funny because we were talking last night in the other Florida Can meeting, which was great as well, that the opposition to Schedule 3 is interesting because it can come from the complete prohibitionists like Kevin Sabet, and
reason though,
because they want to keep it in Schedule 1 because they still think it's the devil, and you'll have opposition on the other side from the advocates who want to completely deschedule,
because honestly it doesn't change a lot outside of perhaps
it
like
doesn't.
banking
Rescheduling
and
keeps
tax
it
purposes.
rescheduling keeps it criminal, keeps it under the thumb of pharma. Jody, from the medical side, and you and I have discussed this, I get concerned about pharma trying to isolate my cannabinoids and then trying to make single molecule products out of them. THCV probably being one of the greatest examples, that weight loss cannabinoid. Maybe yes, maybe no, we'll see. CBN, this, that.
Marinol.
Marinol in and of itself, synthetic THC.
Marinol is from the 80s. They isolated THC. They knew that it was good for certain things on a medicinal scale, right? We've known this since the time immortal that it was medicine. They isolated it. They put it in sesame oil. They made it available first as a Schedule II drug. It was one of the first drugs to actually ever be down scheduled. So all the hype about THC in Tallahassee every year, THC, the molecule, is Schedule III and has been since the 90s. But if you go and try and get a prescription for Marinol filled, you're going to spend thousands of dollars a month. So when Dr. Berry talks about them isolating the molecules, my fear as well. We thought, and talk about small successes, when I started in the 90s, one of our first objectives was to see Marinol rescheduled from Schedule II to Schedule III, because we had AIDS patients and cancer patients who couldn't afford to break the law, but they knew cannabis worked and they knew it was THC. And they would go and they would find the one pharmacist in the state that was even willing to fill it. They'd pay the thousands of dollars for it and it would make them sick, because these isolated molecules don't have the entourage effect.
Well, they don't. They don't.
That's the beautiful thing about the plant. And
Right.
the closer you can get to the whole plant. I worry about dispensaries because they are trying so hard to make enough medicine to meet the entire market. Whereas 10 years ago, we had tens of thousands of places where you could go and procure pot. Now TrueLave has 50 locations or whatever, you know, but used to you could get marijuana from Johnny down the street.
Johnny.
You know that, Jody.
It was tested. A dozen
Johnny
people I
tested
knew
it was
used
good.
it.
Yeah,
in that
Johnny,
time.
yeah.
Johnny
You
tested.
know what, Jody? It's interesting though, because I think in general the prices in Florida, and listen, you can talk, you know, apples and oranges, different states. Of course, our taxes are still at zero. We got to maintain that in medical key. We got to maintain the quality of the medicine being also produced in Florida as we move forward with legal adult use. And just to morph back to the pharma convo, pharma's going to do what pharma's going to do. They always have, they always will. They got money, you know, they're going to, whatever they're going to do. What I don't want them to do is take away our whole plant product, of course, as you said, and whatever research that they find out about the isolated cannabinoids. And I've always said this, make sure you let my botanists know so that the botanists can breed in those minor cannabinoids and terpenes better into the whole plant product. Because what I want from the dispensaries is I want a 14% THC and a 7% CBD and a 3% CBG and a 2% CBC flower, right? And I want to be able to recommend to my old time veteran types that, hey, if you still want to be flower guy, then try whole flower vaporization of this THC CBD product as your safest alternative. They're going to smoke it, of course, you know, but the point is it's those blends that I think pharma can maybe add into the discussion, but we're 5-10 years down the pipe because research takes time. But anecdotally, listen, I'll be honest with you. And I'm so proud of it, Ruta, and I want to give you credit and my staff credit. I'm so proud to look at Ray Rodriguez and say to him, you know, Chancellor Rodriguez, anytime you're driving up 75, and I mean it, during the day, during the week, please take my card, turn off, take a stop, because I know what he's going to see. And I mean that. And we do have our problems in the medical cannabis space in Florida. But in general, we're serving a lot of patients in an incredibly positive fashion. And that's what I told Leader Grant. That's what I told Leader Grant as well. I said, you'll be seeing me in Tallahassee again this year. I told him I was the guy that came up to speak for Representative Roach in committee. I'm the guy that had the phrase, we need every arrow in the quiver, okay, as a patient and as a doctor these days in healthcare. And, you know, Jody, I've added a new line to that. And cannabis is the softest tipped arrow in the quiver, right? And if you're old like me, if you're old like me, that means there was a suction cup on the end of it, okay? And you fired it out at a window. And it's stuck. If you're young, now it's nerve. But I'm teasing, but I'm not, because cannabis is a soft arrow. And we don't want anybody abusing cannabis, and in general, people don't, you
No.
know,
But
but
the
still.
results are still truly.
But the conversation I had with Leader Grant last night also, Jody, and that's why it's going to be so interesting to see. And this conference is and listen, I credit Taylor and Dr. Sharkey for putting it on. We need focus right now because hopefully Director Kimball, okay, of the OMU is supposed to be there. We know he's going to be delivering his remarks to a committee because they always give the yearly update around that time too. And I said this to Representative Roach last night. We need a little bit of muscle because Representative Roach is also going to be at that conference. Dr. Hirschfield and I double teamed him with this one last night. We need a little muscle with Director Kimball so that he knows that there's doctors in the state that want to and are qualified to work with the OMU to make the program better. Give us a little committee. Let us meet every quarter. Give us updates on the RFE process and this, that. Let us tell you who's doing telehealth illegally out there. We know.
Like, you know what, the other thing too is we can even start tracking the RFEs and see what kind of patients really want it. Is it
My
just
point is
recreational users, or is
it's
it
long
cancer
since
patients
time
that
for
are
the
asking?
OMU
We
to
can
give
them
us
that.
a working group of concerned doctors and
But we gotta give
patients.
them evidence.
and
of things, too,
caregivers.
Because they always,
I know.
their answer always back when you talk to them is like, give us the evidence. give
Jody
us
will
the
be excited
evidence.
about
So,
this. We have the consortium, the research
yeah,
consortium
yeah,
coming
that's
out
Right.
really good.
in October. We
Yeah,
do.
October 22nd, I think.
So
It's-
is that, would the OMMU not say that the consortium is your working group? Would they not consider that
No,
your
the
working?
consortiums
That's
are
in terms of
research.
more research.
Yeah,
on-
they're research based, and that's Dr. Cook. And
Right.
and they're awesome.
They're really tracking, they're trying to track new patients from the start, from the get-go of somebody that's brand new to cannabis. That's what the researchers have told me, that they're looking mainly at that, and they want to just track it over like 2 years and then track it by disease and see like what the outcomes are over a course of a new patient starting brand new to cannabis and tracking it. For us, we did surveys, but ours were of existing patients. And we were just taking a look at like quality of life measures, outcomes, things like, feeling better, because it's hard to measure. It really is.
Just trying to quantify what we hear every day.
See and
you know.
hear, but the results are there. Like, I mean, it's pretty consistent. And some of the things that are amazing, and I talked to the consortium about it, and that's why they're kind of wanting to come out. That we had a trend of people coming off of blood pressure medicines a lot. Like, a lot. And I think that's a significant statistic. And so did they. And they're like, oh my gosh, we
Yeah,
want
there
to
are
see
new
that.
patients and we get them, listen, Jody, thank God for
That's
the new
really
patients
interesting.
because they still have to come in person. We do a lot of telehealth. And as I joke about with my patients, if it was all telehealth, I could sit in don't get the image, sorry. I can sit in my basement in my underwear.
You keep bringing that back.
No, I know.
Thank God there's
You
no
know,
basements in Florida.
I think it just goes back. It wasn't that said there was a kid in somebody's basement who was,
Well, there was
in front of the
also
home
that guy
lecture or
from
something.
CNN. I don't know.
Oh, well, that's true. Well, no, listen, no video.
A whole nother
It's funny
story.
because our patients kind of expect the video and we don't need the video, so, it's awesome being able to keep people safe, legal,
But
and
I think it's,
educated.
I think it's
you know.
really important to do
Telehealth.
this, though, and
Oh,
and
of
have
course.
those outcomes.
We're excited about it.
It's because it's really powerful to go in front of a group.
The
of
point is
people
we have the
and
new
you
patients.
can say like, okay, you wanted results. We
Right.
have some
Sure.
statistics to throw at you. And even like you were saying when you go up to Tallahassee, to say like, okay, well, you know what, how many deaths occurred in the state of Florida due to cannabis? And if somebody had that result and threw it at them, I think that's really powerful. And if you say it's 0% and be like drunk drivers, let's look at that. And
Joe, there is one other legislative craw that I have right now, and I know we can't unravel it this coming year, but we have to unravel that can't use medical cannabis in the post-treatment setting. That was Harold's last year, and 12-step, after drug treatment, after rehab, whatever it may be, call it what you may. If you have a legitimate cannabis card, it's going to keep you off Ativan and or Prozac and or whatever Ambien, whatever hell else they're going to throw at you. So that got through last year, and listen, we couldn't focus on that one because Senator Harold was going to get that one done. We knew that. So that's going to be hard. That's going to be hard to unravel. But that one's that sticks in my craw. That's one that we're going to have to work on.
And
you know.
Barry, I did go after that because I thought I could
Oh, I know you
handle
did. I know.
that. That actually has become one of my biggest legislative priorities.
Good.
So obviously, the Florida Cannabis Action Network is a membership-based organization. We run by committees and with a membership organization where we actually invite people to tell us what their priority is. I don't get to do what I want to do all the time. But the Federal Workplace Drug-Free Workplace Act is really kind of becoming a bigger rock. I guess if when you get to the certain points as you're climbing the mountain, you get to certain points in the mountain and you realize how big that next rock really is.
Oh, yeah.
Drug-free workplace says that anybody that takes more than $100,000 in federal money has to have zero tolerance drug-free workplace. Zero tolerance. So we were talking about looking for federal money, federal grants for Hemp for Water. Many of the people who work for Hemp for Water, which is a fabulous project where we use hemp plants to remove nitrogen and phosphate
That would
from
be our friend Steve Edmonds, of course.
who is also on the board of directors of Cannabis Action Network. His project, I said, Steve, you take $100,000 and we're going to have to put in a zero tolerance drug-free workplace project. He says, oh no, I'm going to fight that. I said, well, not if you're getting the $100,000, you're not.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
This
I tell
is
patients years of work
this
ahead of
is
us.
hospitals, every hospital.
Yeah.
This is every university. So when we've talked about workplace employment and the federal, again, we have a client who has we have a member who has been challenging over being dismissed from his job. His job takes money from the federal government. So
Sure.
this is definitely one
Step
we're
by
going to need.
step. And you know that and just once again segueing, because I know it's 9:00 as always. Green room goes so fast. And you're right, Jody. Listen, we have 5 shows here, but just segueing into this evening's event. That's why the discussion of Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 and all that. Listen, everything has its consequences, intended consequences, and then unintended consequences. So,
Right.
to me, it always takes aforethought to the extent of really trying to, anticipate what's going to happen. My belief is that they're going to do what they're going to do, and doctors are going to have their say, but they're still going to do what they're going to do. So I think they probably will reschedule, to 3, and then we'll have to deal with it, So how that happens, it'll happen better when there's people like Jody, and us, continuing to make sure that we're paying attention and putting the focus where we can.
No, I mean, it still doesn't benefit the patients. I mean,
It would benefit the patient if insurance companies would pay for cannabis.
Because it's still not.
I got it.
Recognized, so it's still in the same position. The vets still won't have access.
It'll be federally legal. You make it Schedule 3, and you know what? I am going to participate tonight in communicating about cannabis with Florida Cannabis Action Network, and tomorrow I'm going to be much better equipped to talk about Schedule 1 to Schedule 3.
Good.
Right? That's why we're doing this.
No, listen, I'm looking forward to hearing Mike Crowitz, who is also on the panel tonight, international expert on this. And he said Wikipedia in the discussion of Schedule 1 designation, right? Or something like that, Jody. But seriously, Mike's going to teach me things about Schedule 3, quite frankly, because I'm just a physician that has had a DEA number and a prescription pad my entire career. Still do. Haven't written a narcotic prescription, Jody, in over 5 or probably 6 years. I don't know. It's been 8 years since I was in the ER. So you really don't need it. But and we'll end with this. If they reschedule to Schedule 3, then maybe I do. Maybe you can't do it without a DEA number now. So there are cannabis clinicians that have given up their DEA writing abilities because they don't need it. They may have to get it back. So intended consequences, unintended consequences. But thanks for joining us, Jody. Listen, Jody is one of our periodic guests, and it's always great to have her.
Thank you for always fighting a good fight.
Best thing about telehealth is I don't have to show up at the doctor's office every time. Worst thing about telehealth is I don't get an opportunity to see my doctor and all their wonderful staff as often. What you guys are doing there at your clinic is fabulous. I am not a novice consumer, and every time I walk in your office, I learn something. So thank you all for the work that you are doing. It has enabled someone like me who really wanted to make sure that patients had access to quality information and quality products. It has made it very easy for me to point in the direction of your clinic and say, this is what it could be. So whatever happens next in the state of Florida, there's going to be physicians like you and teams like you have with Ruta that are going to be there to help people wander through this. And even if you are someone who is just been maybe used cannabis and now you want to start using it medically, consult with a physician.
Yeah,
It's just a good idea. You have complex medical conditions, and we want to make sure that all of your systems are go. And the best place to do that is with someone who is spending as much energy learning as someone like Dr. Berry, and making sure that their staff is totally ready to handle your condition. So I'm a fan. Thanks, Dr. Berry.
And
Ruta.
those were very
Thank you.
kind words, Jody. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
And
you.
listen, it's an honor, no, seriously. And listen, we're all pulling on the rope together, and we'll do it again tonight. So we'll see you
Thanks.
soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
See everybody next
Next week in the green room.